Hello everyone, this is Mr. McKeever here, and today we're going to talk about the scientific revolution. And to really have a good conversation about the scientific revolution, we really need to contrast it to really how people were learning and understanding the world prior to this time period. So let's start off with how was knowledge gained back in the day, and that really comes from the ancient Greeks. There really hasn't been a time of true natural exploration of the world since the time of Plato and Aristotle, uh, back before the Roman Empire was really around. So we have kind of just accepted the older ideas, the ideas of like geocentrism, the notion that there is a world that we are the center of, that is the center of the universe, and everything revolves around it. All those things are really have been the basis of our understanding of the universe to this point. Even though there have been other people who've tossed around ideas that are different, we didn't accept them. So we've been relying on the ancient Greeks now for hundreds of years for our source of knowledge, and that's just not really going to be acceptable anymore. Since the Renaissance and the Reformation have started and really started to call into question the basic ideas that we had just assumed to be true for hundreds of years, and we were opening up that door to question and to reanalyze, to go back to the sources and critique things, we're going to start to really question the ideas of those ancient Greek philosophers, like Plato, like Aristotle, and really try to reassess what is actually correct and where is our actual place in the universe. So we're going to challenge those ideas. We're going to now start relying on like observation, experimentation, empirical evidence to understand the world around us. So where does this all begin? Because challenging is hard. Well, it begins when we start exploring the world. When we start to finally realize that, the world really isn't flat, when Ferdinand Magellan circumnavigates it, we know that that's not a reality. And then these ideas start being published using the printing press, we can start to actually make substantive gains in our knowledge. We can improve upon what we know in a relatively short amount of time. Because it took so long before to really gain any amount of knowledge, to reproduce it and to spread it and have people criticize it, human development was very limited. But now that the printing press has really opened the door for us, we're going to start going. All right, so challenge is going to be challenging. Haha, funny pun, right? We will begin with one of the most simple and basic notions of human existence, and that is, where exactly do we fit? And this is actually going to be questioned by a Polish astronomer, a guy by the name of Nicholas Copernicus. Many people will consider him as one of the fathers of the scientific revolution because he calls into question one of the most basic notions of human existence: where is the Earth in the universe around it, and just observes. What he does is he stares at the stars night after night and tries to understand exactly what he sees, journals it all down, starts drawing it out, and when he does that, he starts to realize that the notion that the Earth is the center of things doesn't seem to really work. Instead, he comes up with what he calls his heliocentric theory. The notion that the sun is actually the center of the universe, or the solar system. They didn't really understand what a universe was at this point in time, and that we revolved around it, and that the other planetary bodies revolved around it. But he knew that this was playing with dynamite. So he doesn't publish his ideas until after his death, because it's important to remember that even though the Reformation has diminished the impact of the Christian churches across Europe, we have a lot of religious division, it's still very important in people's lives. Copernicus was the devout Catholic. He is not going to risk his immortal soul over these ideas. He's terrified of how the church would respond. So he waits, and then upon his death, some of his friends publish his works, and what we find is that when people start to observe them, they realize he was onto something. Now, he's not perfect in his theory. Tycho Brahe is going to gather additional data to realize, yes, the sun is the center of our solar system, but his assistant, Johann Kepler, actually realizes that it's not on a circular orbit here, it's actually elliptical. The planets all seem to have their own various elliptical orbits. They don't necessarily align at any given time. It's not, just smaller ellipses all fitting within each other. They have different routes. And this will confirm Copernicus's ideas, but approve upon them. And that's important, is that they're not just accepting Copernicus was right to a degree, they are pushing more. And that's what we do during the scientific revolution, this period of time where we call into question our understanding of the natural world, and we apply empirical evidence to what we know. They took his ideas, they ran with it, they tested it again and again to realize it was a start, but not the finished product. So, with the help of Tycho Brahe and Kepler, we do now understand kind of the nature of our solar system. And we continue to build upon these ideas. Copernicus is right. Galileo Galilei is going to take the next step. He is going to begin studying the heavens through the use of his telescope. And this is huge because not only is he going to discover new heavenly bodies out there, moons of Jupiter, and etc., he's going to realize that the universe is a bit older than people took for granted. When you look at Mars through a telescope, when you look at the moon through a telescope, it looks ancient. A lot older than the few thousand-year-old belief of what the Earth was supposedly, according to church teachings. So, not only does he confirm that Copernicus is correct, but he's also starting to poke holes in common belief and common dogma, and this is going to garner some issues from the Catholic Church. Despite what seems like clear evidence against church teachings, the church responds by telling him either you recant what you say or we will excommunicate you. And Galileo's stuck. He doesn't know what to do. The repercussions and the pushback by the church was not something he really expected. Copernicus did, that's why he waits, but Galileo's not really prepared for that. And that's a problem. Like, what do you do? Well, he does what he can do. He decides to recant his beliefs, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't believe he's right. He actually continues to publish long after this, but he's under house arrest and uses a pen name to try to secretly get around church ideas. But at this point in time, the cat's out of the bag. Scientific research is exploding at a tremendous level. Galileo was just the tip of the iceberg. Welcome to the birth of the scientific method. We come up with the idea, we see something, we create a hypothesis around it, we do experiments and tests and observe to find out if it's right, and then if it is right, we declare it a law. This is how we're going to really reassess the entire world up to this point, through critical analysis and experimentation. People like René Descartes jump on this in a heartbeat. Descartes, in an attempt to better understand the spatial acuity of the world, the relationship between one object to the next, develops his idea of a Cartesian plane, which is kind of the basis of analytical geometry. He also calls into question everything from the nature of the universe and our own existence, with this philosophy of just mind-numbing analysis of everything. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Everything else is up for question and debate, but I think, therefore I exist. But everything else has to be proven to me. That is, one, so frustrating if you're an average person trying just to live your life, but it's really going to help motivate people throughout this period to become more and more critically in tune with what's going on, and this desire of searching for truth, natural truth. So, Descartes will call into question, reopen the can of worms as Plato's cave, the analogy of what is real and everything. We're not going to refocus on that during this time period. Hopefully you remember that analogy. If you don't watch this clip from The Matrix, we're not going to watch it right now. Other challenges that take place as people are trying to understand the world itself. Robert Boyle is going to call into question Aristotle's notion that the world revolves around four base elements, the elements of earth, fire, wind, and water. Well, those are clearly wrong. And Boyle is kind of considered one of these fathers of chemistry now because he's really calling into question what the world is really made out of. What are the elements? Cat's out of the bag. We keep going. Isaac Newton becomes one of the fathers of physics when he understands the three laws of motion. An object in motion stays in motion unless acted by an unbalanced force. He understands the notion of what gravity is, that we are all being pulled towards every object that has mass. He also starts to question what's the relationship in God in this whole world, where he develops his clockmaker theory, an attempt to rationalize the existence of an all-powerful being, but at the same time making knowledge approachable, and that the God just makes it or God does it is no longer a viable excuse or a viable reasoning as to why something happens. There is a logical explanation for it. So all these things are now coming in to question. People are starting to debate what really is the world that we live in during this period. We also come up with the notion of new medicine. Vesalius, Jenner, people who are going to really take shots at ancient medicine. The notion that leeches are a viable option for anything? No, that's dumb. Let's critically analyze how the body works. Let's process muscles and bones. Let's figure out how we heal, how people get sick, how people get better, so we can provide viable treatments for illnesses that exist. So the scientific revolution will change everything. The emphasis is going to be through critical analysis and reason. And now that we're able to do this to the natural world, people will then extend that notion to not just how the world works, but how humans fit in that world. So it becomes the gateway to another period of time that we call the Enlightenment, which is going to be where our next step is. Humans are now on the hunt for understanding, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. We will re-examine and question every facet of human existence. How we interact with each other, how a government interacts with us, what is the nature of a government, what is the nature of religion, of superstition. All of these things are fair game. The door is open. Now it's time for us to walk through. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.